Hello everyone. Let me know if you don't hear me well. So first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to come here. I'm very happy to join this conference and to visit China again. It's the first time since the pandemic that I'm visiting here. I'm heading a research department looking into mainly future wireless technologies, focusing of course on 6G. We are present globally. We have one research lab here in Beijing, led by my colleague who is present here today, Van Rooij. Happy to discuss any collaborations that you may want to talk about later today. We also have, of course, a lot of presence throughout Europe, also in the US and different parts of the world. So, having said that, let's see. 6G. I will start talking a little bit about what will the world look like in 2030. We met a little bit yesterday, all the presenters, and I think we agreed on one thing. No one can predict the future. It's impossible. But still, we are standing here now in the middle of the 2020s. We are in the beginning or approaching the middle maybe of the 5G era. What we do know is that there will come a 2030 era, and we need to be as prepared for it as we can. So let me start a little bit by what we do believe we can say about this 2030 era, and then moving a little bit on to the evolution of the wireless technologies as we see it, coming from 5G where we are today and into future 6G system. And towards the end, I will become a little bit more technical, talking about maybe some physical layer aspects and so on. There we go. So we believe that in 2030 we will see a cyber-physical world. It coincides very well with other speakers we have seen here today. We may call it a digital and physical world. We have the physical reality on the right-hand side here, which is the world we live in physically. We are surrounded by everything that's happening. We have the traffic, we are moving around in the world, we have all the industries and their physical realities, the factories they may operate in and all the other environments. And of course, for some time now we have had this digitalization of the human life, the personal life. We have the digitalization of different industries, of business life. So everything is moving to having more or less a digital representation as well. You can talk about digital twins or other types of digital representations. And this is a trend that we see will continue, so that we can really talk about two sides of reality, the physical and the digital, or the cyber reality, as you may. And we see future network platforms, such as a 6G platform, as something that will connect these two worlds, so that we can really get them together and get the most out of them. So the 5G system that we have today, it is, I think, one of the greatest platforms of innovation that we have come up with in our industry and in all the industries. It's really driving digitalization, and we see more and more use cases coming up as all of you are involved in different things. And when we move into the 2030 then, having had 10 years of 5G, I am pretty convinced that there will be requirements that the 5G network cannot meet. And that's why it's time to start talking about 6G in this time frame then. And in this time frame, I think we will see something that we call a digitalized and programmable world. So it's not just that it is digitalized, these digital representations, but they can also have an impact back on the physical world. So the world becomes, in a sense, more programmable. We can have an impact on the physical world through the cyber world or the digital world. And then we can create this platform that can answer to these needs from society and from human needs. Some examples of needs where we see evolution is the Internet of Senses, or how do we interact with the digital world? How do we interact with each other through the digital world? Today we are living still in the smartphone era. That was the revolutionizing technology that drove the 4G, as we heard earlier here today, with the smartphone being sort of the key device there. It is a fantastic thing. Still, it is two-dimensional. It carries only two sensory experiences, right? Audio and video. So one may foresee that we will expand this interaction that we really like to have as humans between each other, meeting physically like this, but also hybrid and digitally, as we're doing in this conference as well, with some virtual guests or online guests. So for sure, you could foresee that this will continue to evolve into multisensory experiences. Of course, the XR trend is the most tangible trend right now, where you see the whole AR and VR converging, and you see the evolution of new devices and headsets and so on being released. That's one strong track, but probably there will be other tracks coming up in the coming years. And then another track we see is the connected intelligent machines. This is really where AI and automation is being introduced and making its way into more and more industries, so that we can really utilize the power of AI and become fully automated, which will make many industries much more efficient. And of course, our most prominent and extreme challenge, I think, in the moving into the future, to make sure that we can really make this world sustainable. And here we think the connected, sustainable world, that is the only way we can win that battle, basically. So to meet these human and society needs, we have some platform components that the 6G network platform should deliver. For sure, it needs to deliver limitless connectivity. The connectivity can never be the limiting factor in any new innovations. I think we all agree here in the industry, and we are all determined to continue to drive the evolution of high data rates, low latency, high availability, and other things. The global coverage aspect has been mentioned several times here. That's for sure a key component of any future network platform. And the technical challenges in this domain are, for example, integration between different systems and networks. We have the satellite, the NTN field. We have all the short-range technologies and other type of technologies that all need to work together to really deliver this platform. The trustworthy systems, as the wireless network, the network platform of the future carries more and more of the vital data and the vital traffic of our infrastructure, of our society, as well as our enterprises. It becomes even more important that this network is trustworthy. It should be reliable in the sense that it cannot fail, and it also needs to be trustworthy in the sense that we can trust our data and our communication needs in the hands of this network and the network platform. The network needs to be cognitive in the sense that the network in itself utilizes the tools and powers by AI and data-driven. So the network, of course, needs to be automated in the sense that it's cost-efficient and also it delivers the best possible performance. So the cognitive networks, and in the term network here is also included the whole intelligence of the network and the impact of network on the physical reality. We foresee also that the network capability will merge with the compute capabilities, as has also been mentioned earlier today by many other speakers. So we can call it the network compute fabric. There is some sort of always availability of compute power close to us, or as close to us as we need. And there is one example in the middle here where we have a bus and a bicycle on a collision course. And given that we have this future network platform, which has created then digital twins of the whole situation here and the different systems in the bus, the whole traffic system, and also sensors and actuators in the bicycle, we can make some analysis and prediction here in our network platform, in the cognitive network, to foresee that something needs to happen here. And we can also have an impact then, maybe hitting the brakes on the bus, hitting the brakes on the bike, doing both, doing some kind of collision avoidance, steering away, somehow actually saving lives with this new network platform. So that's the vision. Then one might take a little bit the other turn the coin around, looking at the industry we are in today. We have a history of all the generations we've been through. We learned a lot. Still, every time we have to ask ourselves, of course, why should we introduce a new generation? Why is this the time for the 6th generation? First and foremost, I mean, we still see increasing traffic demands and increasing needs from the networks. So in some sense, we do need to continue to evolve the networks, to add more capacity. The traffic growth is still there. We make lots of measurements, analysis, and forecasts in the networks we deliver and run, and we see also forecasts from other players in the industry that show this. On top of that, we really see these new business opportunities coming along. So, for example, offering data and information services over different APIs from the network platform that will sort of enable new ecosystems to utilize the network in a new way. We really want to get closer to the app developers who are sort of at the heart of the industry in one sense, because they are delivering the applications that we run on our smartphones that are actually running in the network, that is in the end making people pay for the mobile subscription. But today the app developers are sitting pretty far from us who are developing and researching the networks. So somehow we need to come closer together between the app developers and the infrastructure or communication system researchers and developers. So here we see these APIs as a way that the app developers can have more access to actual information and interfaces into the network to leverage when they innovate new applications. Also, there are new customers being foreseen in the enterprise space, as mentioned, from the societal needs, and there's still new use cases coming up on the consumer side. It's also so, of course, that every new generation offers a new opportunity for us to sort of reset a little bit, so we can start over in a sense. We bring everything we learned from previous generations, but starting a new generation, we can enable some new design principles that may be necessary actually to really reach, for example, the trustworthy system and integrating it closer with the compute and so on. There is some opportunity for improvements based on 5G learnings. I will come back a little bit to that later. And also introducing new functionality that may or may not have already been partly introduced in the later 5G releases, but to introduce it from the start to get a little bit industry alignment. So every new generation as well, we restart a little bit the alignment in the ecosystem between the network vendors, between the smartphone vendors and the chipset vendors and so on. We start off at one point and then we have a little bit of divergence for some releases, and then we can realign a little bit. Some use cases that we may foresee in 2030s and beyond. The massive merged reality, the immersive XR for the mass market. The massive digital twinning, if we could enable real-time digital replication, that would be enable lots of interesting new applications for sure. Situational awareness, introducing situational awareness into the network could be applicable in many fields, traffic safety, for example, as was mentioned before. To really address the digital divide and ensure we can have a global broadband experience with 100% coverage. To introduce accessible care for everyone, really introducing e-health for all. And to really take strides towards the connected, sustainable world with, for example, efficient food production. Could be another use case for the 2030s. All right, looking a little bit to the journey then we have ahead of us. How will we move into the 6G and what type of spectrum can we use? As mentioned, we are currently in the 5G era. It's a scattered landscape, as you know. We have 5G standalone and we have 5G non-standalone. And for sure, the first thing to do is to get on the 5G standalone, as China has been early to realize and a really good driver of. And once we are in the 5G standalone phase, it's a really good position to be in, because we can leverage all the advancements which are being done now in 5G Advanced, as we heard from our 3GPP colleagues earlier today. There are still good additions coming to 5G, but we are also ready to take the step to 6G. when we see the need, when we see that the requirements cannot be met by 5G, and when we see monetization opportunities. So this is a stepwise technology adoption. It's driven by network demand and monetization opportunities. And the time frame is not extremely detailed here, but we are seeing that the 2030s is the 6G time frame. But of course, it will be sort of different in different parts of the world and in different networks, depending on the requirements and the different needs. But key thing is that 6G is something that will build on 5G. There will be a very smooth migration in order to make this step happen, so that we can really utilize the spectrum sharing between 5G and 6G. And this is a little bit repeating the same thing, but we will have the possibility to quickly deploy 6G in existing bands if we use the spectrum sharing technology that we invented in the step from 4G to 5G. We will have the possibility to aggregate 6G across multiple bands, including new centimeter wave deployments. And this will ensure an excellent 6G experience from day one. And then the key message here then, as also introduced by the HexaX architecture by Mikko, when we build 6G standalone on the evolution of the 5G core, we will have a very smooth migration, and we will have support for 6G monetization from day one. And still we can add new 6G specific capabilities and services in the future. Looking at the spectrum picture in the lower left then, and blowing it up then, we call this a multi-layer spectrum cake in the 2030s. And here I think is a research challenge that I would like to pose to the auditorium as well. I think we don't see enough of research perhaps in this field of how do we manage all this big complex spectrum portfolio that we have to live with nowadays. We have fantastic assets in the terms that we have all this spectrum, but it also puts quite a lot of complications in the deployment, in the development of the radio and other RF technologies, in mobility management, in load balancing management, and so on. And for sure, AI is a tool that we can use here in combination with other proven methods. Anyway, of course, we will build on the good spectrum portfolio we have from 5G in the base here. We have the low bands giving us nice coverage. We have the mid bands, which give nationwide coverage and strong capacity. And of course, as we know, there is no decision yet on 6G spectrum. There is no 6G spectrum allocated. So we don't know for sure what will happen. But there was big steps taken in the World Radio Conference in the fall here of last year. So there is discussion started about the centimeter wave. And we do believe the 7, in particular the 7 gigahertz, can be a good spectrum to utilize for 6G. There are still evolutions and opportunities for sure to work more with millimeter wave and what we have learned in 5G. And we also have, as part of the 6G research area, the sub-terahertz spectrum, which may become useful in local areas where extreme performance is required, in special cases, for some industries perhaps. So I think it's worthwhile to investigate the whole breadth of this, width of this spectrum portfolio. It will be a fully coordinated multi-layer network. We will make it sure that 6G can be run on any of these layers. And we will aggregate the spectrum when needed to get the high data rates needed for some services. And I think in this new spectrum that is being discussed, we will have many coexistence challenges that we have to figure out as well, how we do in the most efficient way. Coming into the air interface then, what do we believe for 6G so far? There are many components being discussed. We are for sure investigating all of them together with our partners in academia and other partners in the industry. AIML, the sensing part, the low power wide area, the network energy performance, the coverage everywhere, spectrum I mentioned, different waveforms, the coexistence aspect, what about duplex flexibility, distributed MIMO, evolution of MIMO, and many more. So just to mention a few of them, I think the energy efficiency is really key. We took some really good steps when we went from 4G to 5G. For sure, in the standardization of 5G, we managed to keep the lean design pretty much in focus. And that still remains the key. So when we took the step from 4G to 5G, we cleaned out a lot of static signals, that always-on type of signals, that opened up for a lot of energy savings. And I think what we can do moving into 6G is we can extend this lean thinking into the spatial domain or the node domain, if you may. Maybe not all the base stations need to transmit something all the time. Maybe they can be silent for large periods of time and let some anchor base station be the only one broadcasting in an area. We can also carry this into the frequency domain, as mentioned previously, with this multi-layer spectrum cake. Maybe we don't need to have broadcast signals on all the frequencies at once. If we can devise some smart techniques here, we can have some anchor frequencies, and then we enable other frequencies as needed. So basically, the goal should be that carriers should only transmit when there are connected devices, and those devices really need some data. So I think this should really be important to keep in mind when we are approaching 6G standardization. Because the tricky thing with energy performance is it's not that complicated to do, but it's very easy to destroy. It's very easy to ruin it. You can do it in the standardization phase, and you can do it in the implementation phase. You just add a few static signals, or you just connect the wrong functionality to the wrong signal, and you have locked yourself into a suboptimal energy performance. So I think that's really key to keep in mind, especially when designing the protocols. You know. One signal should be used for one thing, and you shouldn't take shortcuts to connect many things to that signal because it's easy. So a few words about massive IoT in the 6G era. As you know, we have added some different RATs in the IoT space over the past generations, starting in 4G, with the narrowband and the Cat-M, which continue to live into the 5G era. In the 5G era, we introduced the RedCap. And what we foresee is that it is crucial to have a low power wide area technology integrated from day one in 6G. And we foresee that that should be part of the regular 6G RAT. And the reason for that is that the key technologies we use for LPWA are also relevant for 6G in general. So it should be quite easy to have this capability as part of the regular 6G RAT. And then we can have some evolution path for the technologies that are today, or the services which are today utilizing the 4G, Cat-M and narrowband. Then they can evolve into 6G as well. We also have the ambient IoT, which is starting up in the late 5G era, but that we foresee will survive into the 6G era. But note that that is a little bit different thing. There we are really focusing on the battery-less devices and so on. So that's not really something that will replace the Cat-M and the narrowband, the LPWA. Integrated sensing, or integrated communication and sensing, or JCAS. The key part with this is that the sensing functionality is really an integrated part of the communication network, so that we really reuse the spectrum we have for sensing as well, and we reuse the infrastructure. That's the nice thing here. You can talk about many different industries which are thinking about or are about to or are actually deploying lots of sensors. For example, road infrastructure, authorities or other players may deploy lots of sensors, which will be very costly. But we already have the communication networks out there. So I think by introducing this integrated sensing functionality into the deployment that we have today, with a solid standardized solution in 6G, that can really add a lot of value. And it will be really low cost to actually make it go commercial. And it can benefit from having a huge number of cooperative nodes already deployed out there. It can have multiple uses. We can enable new and enhanced end-user services. We can also enhance the network performance. For example, if we are detecting some suboptimalities or even active threats that are somehow imposing the network functionality. And when it comes to the integrated part, there can be different levels of integration, of course. We believe the most relevant is that we can first and foremost reuse the sites and the same spectrum. And it should also be so that you shouldn't need additional hardware for this. It should be reuse of the same hardware that we already have for the communication. That is what will make it easy to deploy. Then we can investigate and further research if we need a different waveform or not, and if we can use the same signals or not. That will not have the same implications on the deployment aspect. Finally, a few words about AI and machine learning. AI and machine learning will play a role for sure in the 2030s and in 6G. It will play a role in the networks. It will play a role in how we manage and operate the networks, and it will play a role in how we develop the networks. So there are different levels how AI ML will be used. For sure, everyone in the industry will utilize AI ML technology when developing solutions. That is a new way to derive new modulation schemes, new codes perhaps, and signal constellations and whatnot, as well as proprietary algorithms like scheduling and so on. Then one can, as a second level, utilize AI ML technology in local algorithms. This will make the network much more adaptable to local conditions. So you may have different forms of your channel estimation, beam management algorithms in different parts of the network, depending on the different situation when it comes to traffic and physical environment and so on. On the third level, one may foresee that AI/ML will also be used in the radio interface protocols. And this is being addressed, of course, already today. 3GPP is studying this. So how can we exchange information between the nodes in the network? And maybe in a future generation, also the protocols will even be not static. Who knows where this AI/ML journey will take us, but I'm convinced that we will, all of us, invest lots of effort to really see how we can utilize this in the best and most efficient way possible.